Hi, everybody. Can you guys hear me? I know I've had some audio difficulties in the past. The sound does not like me, so somebody could give me a comment and let me know that the audio is working. For once, I've already had a lot of technical difficulties tonight. Okay, cool. I think everybody can hear me. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Thursday Night Live. My name is Crypto Kate. I'm your Chief Player Ambassador for the National Cyber League. My phone is blowing up. I'm so sorry. So tonight, we're going to talk about things you can do to get ready for the regular season. Preseason's coming to a close this weekend. I'm really excited because I've seen a lot of players get really into it. A lot of competitors are going for that 100% in preseason. The first thing I want you guys to remember is not to go too hard in preseason and then run out of energy for the regular season. I've talked about the fact that people burn out pretty easily in NCL when you go hard every season, back to back for seasons and seasons and seasons. So it's really important to me that you guys do self-care, right? Make sure that you're eating enough food, drinking enough water, that you're taking breaks, that you're taking naps, that you're sleeping. And that seems kind of silly, but the players who take care of themselves will learn more from the experience and will do better because they're not like melting their brains trying to just be the best. And that's another thing for me. The NCL games are not about being the best. It's about learning as much as you can. So it's a really great opportunity for you to really test yourself and your own skills and see, have you grown from last season? If this is your first season, it's a great starting place, right? You got your preseason scores in. Use that as your metric. Make sure you're growing from preseason to regular season. What I like to do personally as a player is as soon as the game opens, I'm going to go straight for crypto because I like crypto. That's my best section. If your best section is network traffic analysis or web access exploitation, whatever you're really good at and you're really confident at, the first thing you need to go is go do that because you could end up being the top player. And a lot of times the top player isn't determined by who gets 100% and 100% accuracy. It's determined by time when you break it down into those skill sets. So go for what you're really good at first. Then I like to go for something that I'm really bad at. Because I already got the win, right? I did really great in crypto. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. I'm going to go and hit up web access exploit, which is my worst area, and do something that I don't think I can do. And I'll put never more than like an hour into a single challenge section before I change what section I'm working in to break it up and also to kind of reset my brain. If you keep going at the same problem over and over and over again, if it's the last challenge, that's one thing. But if you have a whole wealth of challenges, don't kill yourself on one. Keep skipping around and you'll eventually figure out what you're good at. So I'm seeing a bunch of comments and I want to reply to some of these. So somebody said that it's okay if they don't finish the preseason. That's completely normal. So the intention of the preseason is just to place you into a bracket for regular season. The brackets make sure that you participate with people who are on the same level as you. So, NCL tries to break it down so that the newbies get to go up against other people who aren't as experienced, and then the pros go up against the pros. You can see overall ranking, so you will still be able to see how you stack up against everybody, but preseason just puts you in a group, and it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't really matter. I like to think of preseason as practice. It gets you comfortable with the NCL environment, but it doesn't, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't really matter how you do at the end of the day. Like if you get 17th in gold versus, 17th in silver, it's not the end of the world. You still did really well in your bracket. Another question I saw is somebody's been struggling with enumeration or logs. Yeah, that totally happens. For me, log analysis, when it's just a couple of files, I like to use Excel because that's something I'm really good at. I'm not as great at the Linux command line and the grep and that kind of thing. So with that, I like to say play to your strengths. Do what you know you're good at, and it's okay to not be the best at everything, right? So I'm not really good with command line, but I am really good at Excel, and I know I can filter that data with Excel like nobody's business. So I'm going to use my strengths, and it's a little different, and it's not going to get. I know in the gym right now, there's the SSH logs that everybody's gritting their teeth at, and it's not going to get you those, and that's okay. You have to have a different approach for each different challenge. So I'm seeing a lot of people talk about what kind of virtual machines am I using. I tend to run a Windows 7 and Kali Linux during the NCL games. I build one of each. Why do I use Windows 7? Because I like to use Kane as my password cracker. It's just the one I like the most. It's not really better or worse than any others. And Windows 10 has like firewall permissions that become a problem with Kane. So that's why I use Windows 7. Kali Linux because there's all the the built-in tools. I've used, Durbuster, John the Ripper. I've used WP Scan. Like there's all kinds of tools just natively built into Kali. I don't really have to do anything except install updates, so it's really great. As far as do I recommend using a Linux machine? I think as a beginning player, there was nothing that I didn't do on my Windows machine. So probably my first 2 to 3 seasons, I used all Windows. As I got more experienced and as I started to take on a lot of the harder challenges, the ones that are like the real deal breakers for the top players that kick their butts, I noticed that I would need Kali to run tools like Durbuster. Like I don't know if there's a Durbuster equivalent in Windows, but it's pre-installed in Kali, and it was just easier than trying to find a Windows equivalent. I've gotten a lot better at command line, so there's tools like WP Scan, and I've gotten better at Nmap, which is also available in Windows. But as you get better at command line tools, at least for me, I became more comfortable in Linux, and now I pretty much start in Linux just because, it's there, it's ready to go. So, I'm trying to keep up with these questions. Where do you need to land in the regular season to catch the eyes of the recruiters? So, I don't know. I have never caught the eye of a recruiter, and I've been a pretty high up competitor. I think my best season I was like 94th or 97th. But I have used my scouting report in every job, internship, interview, every interview I've gone to. I have my scores on my resume. And if you go to my blog, it's there. It's cryptokate.wordpress.com. It's the importance of the NCL scouting report blog. It tells you how I use my scouting report in my resume. But most importantly, I added a supplemental material, like when you're sending a cover letter and things like that. I mentioned that I have a scouting report available upon request. And that has definitely gotten my foot in the door for interviews that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And I have had really great conversations based on my skills. So for me, when I go into an interview, if there's a way I can bring up how I specifically worked through a challenge that I didn't understand, I'll do that because it shows that not only do I have skills, but if I don't have the skills, I'm going to learn it really quickly. Trying to read all these comments. You guys are going so fast. I know that my friend last season used a Mac for the entire competition. They didn't have too many problems. There were a couple tools they couldn't install. They used a Windows 7 VM. And that was just because we couldn't find an equivalent program. I'm sure they're out there. If you're using a Mac, again, you have the option of virtual machines. So you're really not limited by your operating systems, guys. Like whatever your computer runs, you don't need a new computer. Just build a virtual machine. They don't have to be amazing virtual machines. Somebody asked, is there anything in which players are actually against each other, or is it all against the clock or against the particular challenge? So it's all really against the challenge. The scoreboard is done first by points. If there are 2 people with the same amount of points, then it's determined by accuracy. If there's 2 people with the same points and the same accuracy, that's the only time time comes into a factor. It's that last deal breaker between 2 scores. So the clock isn't super important. But when, crypto or open source intelligence are the easier challenges that a lot more people get, you might have 40 to 50 to 90 players get 100% accuracy and 100% correct. And then time would come into as a factor as where you're going to place. And, you might still end up in like 100th place with a perfect score, but if you do it more quickly, in that case. So it's really only the sections that you're going to get a perfect score that time actually matters. Yeah. So would you use a virtual machine to do all the questions? So I don't actually use my host computer during the NCL games. In, I think, 2015, there was actually a link to a live virus in one of the network packets. I don't think that Skyline does that anymore, but the threat always exists when you guys are competing in a CTF that you could end up on a site or download a tool or do something that could potentially cause harm to your machine. So for me, it's important to do it on a virtual machine or a guest machine so that you're protecting yourself, and it adds that layer of protection. Okay, I promise at the end of this blog or this video post, I will post a link to my blog. I'm trying to multitask a lot. Let's see if I can do it really fast. Crypto Kate. I had a plan for what I was going to talk about, but I'm really into answering everybody's questions. I think this is really great. I'm so excited that everyone's here and everybody's asking really cool stuff. So this is just the general, I don't know what's going to happen when I press show. Oh, cool. It kind of worked. So that's just the general link to my blog. There's lots of different blogs on there. I'm building out a workshop section where it has some NCL resources. I'm always adding new stuff. Oh, thank you, Bryant. You guys are amazing. Do I have any preferred images? Windows 10 preferred. I just use Windows. I have the oldest virtual, I built a virtual machine with a legit copy of Windows 7 and a legit copy of Kali. 2016, and I just keep going back to my snapshot of it that I created. So I set up my virtual machine how I wanted to for the first time, got them all situated, got all my updates installed, downloaded all my extra utilities that I use, and I took a snapshot. And then I just revert to that snapshot at the beginning of the season, and I don't have to do anything from season to season. Like, I've been doing this a while. I've gotten real lazy, guys. So anything I can do to make my life a little easier, I try to do it. Other tips for the regular season. I know I said it, but sleep, eat, take breaks. Try not to look at the clock at any point. When you see that you have a ton of time to go, you might drag your feet and you need that sense of urgency. When you get towards the end and you feel that sense of urgency, it can stress you out too much. So, I try to just not look at the clock. I think, whatever I get done, and whatever I don't, and I accept that I'm not going to be able to do everything. And I think that's an important thing for a lot of new players to understand. If you go in and you answer 5 questions, you're doing great. Don't beat yourself up. When you get to that point where you feel like you've answered everything, pick a specific challenge type that you're really interested in learning more and try to work on that and try to learn other stuff. Best encryption tool. Just for general encryption? I don't know what the question is. For solving cryptography, or is there an encryption category? I feel like I'm missing something. Links for tools for log analysis. Like I said, for log analysis, I use either Linux command line or Excel. I copy and paste that stuff into Excel. There's a thing that says like text to columns. So you can take, it's all going to come out in a bunch of lines, right? But it's all one cell wide. So you do text to columns and you break it out by different delimiters or indicators. So it can be a comma, it can be a tab, it can be a space. You kind of have to figure out what works for each challenge. And then you can filter once you have it in a bunch of columns. And that's a good place to start, understanding what the logs mean. For your very first time, I recommend Excel. Once you understand what the logs are, it's a lot easier to develop the grep commands in Linux command line. So for decryption tools, so for cryptography, on my blog, there's a blog called Intro to Cryptography. It talks about all of the reoccurring encryption types that occur in NCL pretty regularly. But my favorite tool that I use during the competition, if it's numeric-based cryptography, which is like binary, hexadecimal, base 64, I'll type in the type of encryption that it is, because you can recognize it by the characters. So everybody knows zeros and ones are binary. It's not that hard, but a lot of people don't realize that like binary is just base 2. And if it was 0, 1, and 2, it would be base 3. And that goes on up and up and up. So octal is pretty common. So that's base 8, and that's 0 through 7. Decimal is 0 through 9. After that, it starts to add letters, hexadecimal, things like that. So you can learn to recognize numeric-based encryption. And I just type like hexadecimal to text and click on the first tool. For other types of cryptography, like shift ciphers or rail fence ciphers, I really like Rumpkin's cipher tools, RUMKIN. I don't know if I can type that into the thing. Maybe. I don't know if it'll let me. Rumpkin cipher tools. They come up? Cool. So I just Google that. It's the first link that comes up. It has a lot of the cipher types that you'll see really commonly. Again, this really just gets you like easy and medium. It doesn't, oh, sorry, I'll leave that up for a second longer. It doesn't really get you the super hard challenges, but it's a good place to start. And I think finding your starting place is always important as a new player. Starting point or something that you can show students about what a competition is like, screencast maybe, looking over a competitor's shoulder. I don't know the rules with that. So I'm going to say you should message maybe Cyber Skyline in their Slack channel or message info@nationalcyberleague.org. I don't know if there's rules against that. I don't want to say anything that'll get me in trouble. Similar question earlier, but it wasn't answered. How are people placed into brackets? Okay, so brackets are determined by your rank. The top 15% of competitors in preseason. So preseason closes, and then the Cyber Skyline goes through and makes sure that all of the coaches are pulled out. Coaches, you don't get to rank. If your coach goes in and does some challenges, like they might get on the leaderboard, but all of their scores get pulled. So then it's just the people who participated in preseason that are students. And the top 15% go into gold. The top 50%, so 15 for gold, 50 for silver, obviously with the gold players taken out. So it's about 35% of players end up in silver, and then the bottom 50% end up in bronze. If you do not participate in preseason and you do not submit at least one correct answer, you're placed in the pewter bracket. And I know there's like some penalties with that, but basically pewter means you don't get to like win the regular season. So it's percentages and all based on rank. Do I have a lot of experience when I competed in this season? So I am kind of participating. I don't get ranked. So I graduated. I am no longer a student. I'm out in the workforce. I work for a really cool company called Tavora. I work in the PERC team, which is Privacy, Enterprise Risk, and Compliance. I do a lot of PCI assessments, which is the payment card industry. So no, I can't compete as a player, but I do go through the competition and do the challenges because I think it's important for me as the player ambassador to see what the player experiences each season. If you guys are complaining about a particular challenge in the Slack a lot, I need to have attempted to solve it so that I know what the player experience is like from start to finish. I have competed a lot. I started competing in the National Cyber League when I first went back to school for IT in September of 2015. I think I got 12 flags my first game. It was rough. I didn't know you could Google things. I was literally using a textbook and trying to find out like when what language the I love you virus was written in textbooks because I was a genius. Like it was rough. So I've literally come from the bottom And I've learned a little bit each season, and I found out that I had one skill. I had cryptography. And I traded that with other players. I was like, hey, I'll teach you cryptography if you teach me log analysis. And I'll teach you crypto. I'll teach another person crypto if they'll teach me network traffic. So if you find one thing that you're good at and you can find other players to work with, a lot of players are willing to trade their knowledge for yours. Similar tools. Most of the tools online, and half of them don't do jack. Well, it usually you have to be able to identify the encryption type. So a lot of the automatic tools don't work as well as the ones where you understand the encryption algorithm and are able to like kind of manually decrypt them a little using the tool. Trying to get through these questions. Sorry, guys. Questions are different, but the solution PDF points in the tools. Yeah, the bartering trading system is how I got good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really know a lot of anything. And I've made friends across like the US, different competitors in the Slack. After the season closes, they open a spoilers chat. So it's in the spoilers, you're not allowed to give the correct answer, but you're allowed to talk about how you got to the correct answer. And I would stalk that chat when I first started. I would sit there and I would look at every single answer that everyone said. I would read it for hours and hours. I would try to reproduce the results. If somebody was explaining something in a way that really helped me, I would direct message them and try to ask them a lot of questions. What's really great about the National Cyber League community of players is that everybody's really willing to help each other for the most part, as long as it doesn't cheat in any way. So you do have to wait until the competition closes, but then there's a lot of peer mentoring, and I think that's really important. So once you learn something, try to give it back to the community. Try to teach someone else that thing that you learned and see what you can contribute to the community. And you never know, you might describe it in a way that someone understands it for the first time that they didn't understand every other person explaining it to them. Good books I would suggest. I have a coaching guide that talks about how I kind of approach challenges that I've never seen before. As a beginner, I think that's a really good place to start. I really think the best thing to do is just jump in 2 feet forward, like go as hard as you can and see what happens. Run into the challenges, fumble over the challenges, fail a lot. But I really believe in the quote about Edison saying he didn't fail at making a light bulb 2,000 times. He found 2,000 ways to not make a light bulb. And that's really how I feel my NCL experience has been. I've learned about 10,000 ways how not to do things. And along the way, I got really good at what I could do. There's a lot of people posting really great links about things, tools that they use, and I'm so excited to see that. Yeah, anything that anybody uses is great to share with others. I have used Enigma Group at some point. Also, RTFM, I've seen that too. So these are resources that were also pointed out to me. Sometimes as a beginner, I got frustrated by the resources that people were pointing me to because I felt like they were really above my head. And that's why I tried to create my coach's guide as a resource for people who don't know anything. Like people who didn't know how to turn on their computers at the beginning of the season. I tried my best to write the guide for that. I'm working on creating more content. If you guys can give me feedback on stuff like that, tell me what's helpful, what's not helpful, what you understand and don't, what you want to see more of. I'm always trying to create new content for you guys. So anything like that you want to see, you got to let me know. I can't write it if I don't know you want it. Things that are coming up right before postseason, I'm posting my guide on the different teamwork strategies that I've seen. So one of them is called the Leroy Jenkins. Look out for that. And none of these strategies are ineffective, but you have to figure out what's effective for you and your team. I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live video about it, so you guys can read the blog, ask your questions. I think that's coming out November. I'm not sure. I will. If you guys subscribe to my blog, there's lots of stuff there. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm CryptoKate, Kait on Twitter, and I always post when new stuff is coming out from me. not to shamelessly self-promote, but that's the best way to find out what I'm working on for NCL. I try to do my stuff a little bit separate just so that you guys know I'm not getting like insider knowledge. I'm really coming at this from the player perspective and having played as a long time, even though I'm no longer a player. So Joe Lynn said that the coaching guide is excellent and to exhaust my guide's recommendations first, and that's kind of my sentiment. It's great for first-time competitors. Beyond that, you're probably going to know everything in it, and that's okay. If it's not helpful to you, that's okay. But if you're super nervous, first time ever, that's who the guide was written for. Ross was asking, how do I balance school life responsibilities? I don't really sleep. I tell people to sleep, and I've learned from personal life experience that you need sleep. I try to put my personal career first. Well, that's not true. I put my health first, my physical health, then my emotional health, then the people who are important to me, then my personal career growth. And I always focus on not necessarily what I'm working on right now, but where I want to be and the steps I need to take to get there. And then honestly, like I'm just really good at scheduling. Like I live by my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. My beloved fiance literally will send me date night requests on my Google Calendar so that it gets on there. The new Crimes of Grindelwald movie is coming out, and like 2 months ago, I put that on the calendar and would like I put it on his Google Calendar, and I was like, take me to see it or else. So just having good communication with the people around me that like you have to consult my calendar. I make my calendar available to my friends and family so that they can, look at it when they're asking me to do things. And a lot of times they won't ask me if they know I already can't. So just a great support system helps. Trying to get into pen testing, A+ and networking knowledge, what would be next steps? I think the CompTIA Security Plus is a really great place to go if you have A+ and networking. I skipped A+ and networking. I don't really enjoy hardware, not meticulously. I'm mediocre at best, and networking is my weak point, so I'm studying that now. But the Security Plus is one of the certifications that the NCL competition is based off of. So if you study CompTIA Security Plus, you're already, leagues ahead of a lot of people. Where are the links to all this? I didn't type anything up, but for the most part, all of my stuff is on my blog. I'll type that link again if my computer would scroll. So sorry, guys. Hide my name. I didn't plan on posting all these links tonight, guys. I'm so sorry. So I'll leave that one up because it's the one I reference the most. Thank you for following me on Twitter. I try to post cool stuff and fun stuff and happy stuff. Can you update this link to an occupational therapist? Not sure what that means. I think I'm caught up on all the comments, which is super hard to do. And I'm super stoked that you guys are talking to me so much. Like normally when I come on the show, I feel like I'm talking at the wall and it's super awkward. And this has been so much fun to talk to you guys. Does anybody have any other questions that I can help you out with? I'm always available on Twitter, on Twitter. And I'm frequently available in the Cyber Skyline Slack channel. They have created an Ask Kate channel, so you can go in there and ask me anything. I answer everyone the same way. If you private message me, I'll give you the same answer as public, so it's really great if you guys use the public channel so everyone can see the answers. I don't see any new comments coming in. Okay, so I will wrap up with all the things I think are super important about the regular season. Like I said, take care of yourself, sleep, eat, drink. Don't be too hard on yourself. Know that this is just a measurement of where you are right now. It is not a be-all, end-all by any means. To those of you who are going to make the top 100, like, wow, you are amazing. And insanely talented. There are over 5,000 competitors this season. That means to get in the top 100, you're like cream of the crop. And if you're not in the top 100, you're still doing pretty amazing because you're in the competition. You're doing a lot more than a lot of your peers. I think CTFs are one of the best ways to bridge the gap between curriculum and career. There's a lot of things that you can't do in the classroom that you get the opportunity to do in NCL, and they're a lot more real world than some of the labs you might be getting in your classrooms. I know every program is different. Your program might be amazing, but for those of you who don't have a program that's, worlds ahead of the rest, this is a really great place to grow. After the season's over, make sure that you reflect on how you did. Make sure that you go into the spoilers chat, learn everything you can. Make sure you compete in team. I think team is the most important part of the season because it's the time when you get to come together with other people and share everything you learned this season and help either, be mentored or mentor others. I think the give it back community is so important in this. Oh, I got a few more questions. Okay. If we break one of the WordPress scripts in your blog, please don't break my WordPress. It's not hardened. It's a free WordPress. I don't make that much money yet. Have mercy. Don't attack my website, please. It's really just like a friendly place. Be nice. My Twitter is CryptoKate. How do I stay current in the tech industry? Is specialization or expanding your base knowledge? What's my strategy? Right now, I stay current because what I do is I assist in PCI assessments, which means I go in and I assess different companies' payment card environment. So anything that touches credit card information, and we make sure that that credit card information is protected so that you as a buyer are safe. And I get to see so many different environments. It's not even funny. I can't even keep up at work yet, but I'm working on it and I learn a little more every day. And honestly, like just getting out there. I also subscribe to a lot of news feeds. I follow a lot of people on Twitter. I'm not going to lie. I get a lot of tech news from Twitter. My mentor told me this when I first started in the industry, and I was like, social media is not going to be how I learn about news in the industry, and I was wrong. I find out a ton of stuff on Twitter. How much different is the preseason to the regular season? So preseason is actually all content that has existed in the NCL seasons before. There's going to be more categories. There's going to be more challenges. It's going to be harder. It's going to be more fun. It's going to be crazy stressful. It's going to be shorter. I think it goes from Friday afternoon-ish to Sunday evening-ish. And I'm sorry, I don't know the exact times. I should know these things, but I didn't prepare for the show as well as I thought I did. Yeah, it's just more intense. It's a lot of fun. For the most part, your experience will be very similar. You'll be competing by yourself. You just log into the Cyber Skyline portal and you go into the different challenge sections. But they will test you in like every single category there is, whereas the preseason is just like a sample. So it's kind of like a teaser or a taster of what's to come. And then the regular season's just a lot more content, and it's always new content. Every single season, Franz and Toby come out with crazy new challenges that even I've never seen before, and I've been doing it as long as they have. So, this was so much fun, guys. I'm so glad that we could do this together and that you guys were so engaged and you asked so many questions. Like you said, always available on Twitter, always available on the contact form on my blog. Always, I'm available on Slack when I can be. I do have a 9 to 5. Have mercy during business hours, but other than that, I'm pretty available to you guys. You can private message me. I'm CryptoKate in the Slack channel as well. This is so good. You guys are so great. Anyway, happy hacking, guys.